Hello and welcome back to my channel. Last week I posted a video talking about South Africa taking Israel to the International Court of Justice, accusing it of crimes of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. SA did file a case against Israel at the ICJ after nearly 3 months of relentless Israel B, which has unalived 21,500 people and caused widespread destruction in the besieged enclave. Now, in an application to the court, South Africa described Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide in character because they are intended to bring about the destruction of a substantial part of the Palestinian national, racial, and ethnic group. Now, the acts in question include Palestinians in Gaza, causing them serious bodily and mental harm, and inflicting on them conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction. Now, last week I did mention that South Africa was going to present arguments before the ICJ court on Thursday, January 11th, which was yesterday. Now, we all have been patiently waiting, and yesterday, Thursday the 11th, it did happen. We can only see how anxious people have been, and yesterday protesters gathered outside the court ahead of the first set of oral proceedings. Now, in this video, different people share their thoughts on South Africa's evidence at the ICJ against Israel in this case. Now, people are really happy with the evidence that SA has brought out so far concerning this case. It's like they really have some reasonable evidence. Israel going to get away from this time? We don't know as of yet, but let's keep our ears on the ground and see how this will unfold. For now, check out these videos. I will be right back with some more information on this.
So South Africa has just finished giving evidence at the International Court of Justice against the state of Israel. And all I really have to say in response to South Africa is that Israel is 100% guilty of committing the crime of genocide. And what South Africa did at the ICJ was truly magnificent, because not only did they pick apart Israel's defenses of saying, oh, we're just defending ourselves because an occupying power can't defend itself, and they also masterfully picked apart the general excuses that you've probably heard on this app of people saying, well, Israel actually gave them orders to leave and they told them to go to safe zones, because as South Africa said, not only have the safe zones been since, but also the fact that the orders were given to people with only 24 hours to exit them. And they went into the explanations of why Israel's acts and the statements of their politicians are inherently gentle, and perhaps the most masterful work within the whole thing was when they played TikToks of Israeli soldiers clearly interpreting genocidal statements. Now, if you are someone who was on the fence about what it's doing, you should watch what South Africa was saying here, because they're not saying anything new or anything unbelievable. People have been saying Israel is guilty since pretty much the first days after October the 7th. However, the way that this has been put, the amount of evidence that they have, should push this in the mind of any rational thinker over the line of categorically being lied. However, in spite of the fantastic job that South Africa has done, I am not filled with a massive amount of hope, because the judges at the International Court of Justice will not vote on the basis of merit of the case, but rather wider geopolitical aims. So countries like America are never going to vote in support of South Africa, and then you have judges from countries like Russia who may worry that supporting the South African case is a worrying precedent for them, because they have also been accused of the crime by the International Court of Justice. But regardless of what this court rules, I believe that South Africa's case is so strong that one day Israel will be found guilty of the crime. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will happen. And those who aided and abetted its disgusting, from Western politicians to the average everyday person who has used their social media to advocate for it, they will pay the price for their crimes.
Let me tell you what you need to know as we watch the case. The International Court of Justice's job is to sort out disputes between countries in order to try and get justice and peace. And South Africa has gone to the ICJ asking them to order Israel to stop their actions through the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, in Gaza against Palestinians immediately. As we know, the IDF is responsible for 20,000 people in Gaza, well over half of whom have been confirmed to be children, well over half have been confirmed to be civilians, not Hamas operatives. And right now, every single person in Gaza is at risk of starvation and are in incredibly dangerous health situations because the IDF has cut off access to food, resources, water, and reliable power for everybody in the Gaza Strip. The IDF argues that their war tactics are justified and necessary as they attempt to destroy. South Africa is essentially arguing two things. The first, they say, is that Israel has already contravened the Geneva Convention, and second, that Israel has the intention and have already shown the capacity, the ability to in Gaza, meaning the destruction of a community or society based on some kind of definition of that group of people, that community, and or the intent to remove them from that area of land. And to prove the first point, South Africa is showing a ton of evidence today that the IDF, tens of thousands of people in Gaza, and that half of them are women and civilians not associated with any kind of military group, and that it's been done indiscriminately. They've also shown that the IDF is in crucially needed medical healthcare facilities, which means that people are injured and unable to help themselves to get any decent healthcare. They are also showing that Gaza currently is in a crisis of malnutrition, with everybody in Gaza in danger of starvation, and that there's no reliable drinking water, and that food and aid and resources can't get into Gaza right now, and that's because of the IDF destroying infrastructure and stopping good flows of aid and reliable food sources from getting into Gaza for Palestinians at all. So that's the first part. The second part of intent, South Africa is bringing forward evidence to show that powerful Israeli leaders, both in the military and the government and society, have said things that incite it, like description of Palestinians as animals, like referring to Palestinians as the Amalek, which in religious texts is a group of people that God ordered Jewish people to destroy infant and man and leave no one behind. And they have reams and reams of quoted evidence of influential Israelis saying these kinds of things. And also, when Israelis have said those kinds of things, powerful Israelis, that those Israelis were not reprimanded, disciplined, or sanctioned by their own government, because a government can also allow intent to fester by not fighting back against it and stopping these kinds of descriptions from happening.
So I was in the middle of watching the live stream of the ICJ case that Africa is presenting today. Y'all, when I say they came prepared, they came prepared. They have video of so many of Israel's work. They just saw a video of people in northern Gaza climbing onto an aid truck, because literally no aid trucks have gone to the north. The few that get there, people are jumping on it to get some sort of aid. They came with receipts. Also, they're showing pictures of Al-Qusqa Hospital, of Han Yunis, of Rafah. They came with receipts. If the court does not rule in favor of South Africa, I cannot tell y'all the precedent this will set, not just for Israel, but for every other country that tries to commit from this day forward. It is insane to me that Biden is literally on vacation while this is all going on. Like, I would be shaking in my damn boots right now if I was him or anyone in Congress right now.
Thank you, South Africa. I've got to take my hat off to you. While other nations stand small, you stood up strong and tall. You know all about a bite. You know segregation ain't right. Just like us citizens around the world, we've been watching a genocide live, with the US and the West at their side. But so far, only one nation has called out this disgraceful nation. And for that, we send you our congratulations. You, like us, can see the times, and you said, this is wrong, it's not fine. Just like me and millions others, you can see that Israel must go to the ICC. Well, who is next to stand up tall, to tear down that wall? Ireland, Belgium, perhaps Spain? Can you see the Gazans' pain? Maybe some nations from South America can stand up to that bully. Nations of the world, unite, fight the good fight against it. Take Israel to the ICC, America too. This is something we all must do.
In a case that strikes at the heart of Israel's national identity, South Africa formally accused the country of committing a genocide against Palestinians and pleaded Thursday with the United Nations top court to order an immediate halt to Israeli military operations in Gaza. Now, Israel, which was founded in the aftermath of the Holocaust, has vehemently denied the allegations. As a sign of how seriously they regard the case, Israeli leaders have taken the rare step of engaging with the court to defend their international reputation. Israel often boycotts international tribunals or UN investigations, saying they are unfair and biased. Now, during opening statements at the International Court of Justice justice. South African lawyers say the latest Gaza is part of decades of Israeli occupation of Palestinians. Now, the court has the benefit of the past 13 weeks of evidence that shows incontrovertibly a pattern of conduct and related intention that amounts to a plausible claim of genocide acts. South African lawyer Adila Hassim told the judges and audience in a packed room of the Peace Palace in The Hague. Based in The Hague in the Netherlands, it was established after World War II to settle disputes between states and give advisory opinions on legal matters, which is what it is being asked to do with Israel. Unlike the International Criminal ICC, the ICJ cannot prosecute individuals for crimes of the utmost severity such as genocide, but its opinions carry weight with the UN and other international institutions. Now, South Africa alleges Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians in the wake of Hamas's 7 October act. Hundreds of Hamas Pew men crossed from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel, unaliving 1,300 people, mainly civilians, and taking about 240 hostages back to Gaza. Since Israel launched its military campaign against Hamas in response, more than 23,000 people, mainly women, have been unalived in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. And evidence submitted by South Africa claims acts and actions by Israel are just in character because they are intended to bring about the destruction of a substantial part of the Palestinian national, racial, and ethnic group. Now, this refers both to what Israel is actively doing, such as carrying out airstrikes, and what it is allegedly failing to do, such as, according to South Africa, preventing harm to civilians. And the case highlights Israeli public rhetoric, including comments from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as evidence of genocidal intent. Under international law, genocide is defined as committing one or more acts with the intention to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Now, these acts are unaliving or causing serious or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately in the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent deaths within the group, forcibly transferring to the group to another group. Now, this is how Israel responded to the allegations of that. Israel has fiercely rejected South Africa's claim. Mr. Net said, "No, South Africa, it is not we who have come to perpetrate genocide. It would live all of us if it could." In contrast, the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, is acting as morally as possible. Israel's military says it takes a raft of measures to avoid. These have included airdropping flyers warning of imminent attacks, calling civilians phones them to leave targeted buildings, abandon strikes when civilians are in the way, and the Israeli government has repeatedly stated its intention to destroy us, not the Palestinian people. Now, UK Foreign Secretary Lord Cameron told a committee of MPs he was worried Israel may have broken international law in Gaza, but he said of South Africa's claim, "I don't think that is helpful. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right." Now, can the court make stop in Gaza? South Africa wants the ICJ to order Israel to immediately suspend its military operations in and against Gaza, but it is virtually certain Israel would disregard such an order and could not be made to comply. Rulings are theoretically legally binding on parties to the ICJ, which include Israel and South Africa, but in practice, unenforceable. In 2022, the ICJ ordered to immediately suspend military operations, but the order was ignored. Now, the ICJ could rule quickly on South Africa's request for Israel to suspend its military campaign. This would, in theory, protect the Palestinians from what might ultimately be declared genocide, but a final ruling on whatever Israel is committing could take several years. South Africa has been highly critical of Israel's military operation in Gaza, and as a signatory to the UN's 1948 Genocide Convention, it has an obligation to act. It says the governing African National Congress also has a long history of solidarity with the Palestinian cause. It sees parallels with the struggle against genocide, a policy of social segregation and nation enforced by the palm color minority government in South Africa against the country's majority. Until the first democratic elections in 1994, the country condemned the 7 October Act and called for the release of hostages. Our opposition to the ongoing unaliving of the people of Gaza has driven us a country to approach the ICJ, said President Cyril Ramaphosa. As a people who once tasted the bitter fruits of dispossession, discrimination, arrangement, state-sponsored violence, we are clear that we will stand on the right side of history. Now, South Africa's case before the International Court of Justice is a historic event in the process of the joint Palestinian and South African struggle in the face of the injustice and genocide. Hold draw the illegal occupying power accountable using all legal tools and through international justice institutions and international law force is the main focus of the legal strategy of the State of Palestine and the core of the diplomatic and international movement. What encouraged its various tools, including government officials, military personnel, and colonialists to commit crimes, leading to the commission of and incitement to commit the crime of genocide, is due to intentional failure, the failure to take practical steps to hold it accountable, and supplying Israel with various types of legal and political support. Hamas's spokesperson Sami Abu Zuri, the Palestinian people are following the court session in The Hague with great concern and interest. We urge the court to reject all pressure and take a decision to rise the Israeli nation and stop the aggression on Gaza. The US believes South Africa's submission against Israel distracts the world from important efforts for peace and security. Israeli Foreign Ministry said, "Today we witnessed one of the greatest shows of hypocrisy in history and a series of baseless and false claims. South Africa is ignoring the fact that Hamas still infiltrated Israel, unalived, executed, and kidnapped Israeli citizens just because they were Israelis in an attempt to carry out genocide." We have come to the end of the video. What do you, my viewers, have to say about this case? Kindly share your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.